Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. How's it going, everybody? I am excited to be here with Joe Averill. He is the owner of Deck Science. They are located in Elk River, Minnesota. So we got someone who's, I think he said, in below 7-degree weather right now. I know we had a JobTread event, I think last week or the week before, where Joe came out, got to spend some time with our team. But little background on Joe. Cool thing. We've actually known each other for a few years now. Met Joe, I think it was back in 2023 at the Mile High Profit Summit. Awesome guy doing some really great work. They exclusively focus on decks. So I'm really excited to finally get Joe here on the show. Want to welcome you to Builder Stories, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited. Just another deck guy.
Well, hey, look, we're glad to have you. So why don't you give us a little bit of background? I mean, how did you get into building decks to begin with? What led to you starting your company?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a long story, but if I rewind, so I'm 26 right now, but it all kind of started back when I was in college. So I was actually in school to be a physician's assistant, and everything was on track, was doing good grades, whatever. But halfway through my junior year, I was starting to get work experience, and it was the worst job of my life. It was a miserable couple of months. So it took me a while, but halfway through my junior year, I actually left college, and it was probably top 3 worst days of my life. Skipped my morning class, packed everything up, didn't tell any of my buddies that I lived with, and just went home. And when I got home, probably cried for a good half hour just because, I mean, you felt like an absolute failure, leaving school. So long story short, we got over that. Started working with my dad's company. So he's a commercial GC, kind of a smaller company. So I did that for 2 years and was just getting frustrated with how life was going, basically. So I went on and this is kind of weird, but I went on a 1-week road trip by myself to just clear my thoughts, right? So I went out to Montana from Minnesota, just listened to business podcasts the whole time, just trying to get ideas. What am I going to do? And it was day 7 on the ride back where it crystallized for me. I don't care what I'm going to do as long as it's one thing. And I don't want moving parts, because working for a commercial GC, everything's custom, everything's different. And I just couldn't deal with it. So that's how I ended up on decks. It was one thing. It fit that profile. And I got super lucky too, because my first year, my best friend, he had a fence and deck company. And when I was trying to start my own thing is when they were dropping decks to focus on fences. So they were still getting deck leads, so I was able to buy those. So I actually owe that guy everything for my first year. That was probably 90% of our first year leads.
Wow.
Super lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just he had, I guess, the website and the leads and everything coming in, but just didn't want to do them. And so how'd you decide? What'd you pay him? I mean, was it $50,
Yeah.
$100?
Yeah. No, it was a super good deal too, because I only had to pay him if I closed the deal. So I only had to pay him if I got the money.
Oh, wow.
And it was it's 250 or 2%, whatever was higher. So
Nice.
Super cheap.
All right. Well, hey, that's a great way to figure out what you wanted to do. I mean, it's funny enough, most people don't know about me, but I actually, I went into my undergrad as mechanical engineering, and I think it was my 3rd semester. So first semester, my sophomore year. And I was just totally overwhelmed. I was in thermodynamics, statics, physics 2. I couldn't finish any of the exams. I was like, what in the world is happening here? And I ended up withdrawing from the engineering school as well. Took the rest of the semester off. I literally just played poker for an entire semester. And
I should have done that.
I did end up going back. I transferred into the business school, my I guess what would have been my 3rd year of college, and ended up finishing up over there. But yeah, I mean, I feel you, man. When you get into something and you realize this is just not my jam,
Yeah.
I am not happy. I'm struggling, something isn't right. You got to make a change. So, kudos to you for being able to make that tough call. I mean, it's very hard sometimes to realize hey, this is a sunk cost. I need to just, figure something else out. So, I can imagine how tough that was, but
Yeah. Yeah. It
But
felt impossible.
yeah, I've heard those solo trips are pretty enlightening. I haven't done one myself. My wife, she when right after we met, she ended up moving to Spain for a year to go
Hmm.
teach English to kindergartners. But she did a lot of them. Said it was just like some of the greatest time. Like you really can just clear your head and have all sorts of kind of just epiphanies, just like when you're in your own space, not worried about anything else. So sounds like that worked out well for you.
Yeah. 1000%. You got to get out on the road there.
Yeah. So Dexa, I mean, going from commercial general contracting, to Dex, I mean that that's a really kind of, I'd say, fairly big shift, but a very focused and intentional shift, which I think was really smart of you. I mean, being able to just hone in on one trade and do one thing great, is a really good move, especially early on. You needed to know, like, what can I market myself on? What can I build this brand on? And what can I do great? And so you got into Dex. Was this like your first real experience building decks, or like did you do some building of decks
No, I mean,
before?
the beauty of a deck is like the building of it's kind of the easy part, especially like I was doing like tenant finish outs, remodels, like more complicated, more moving parts. So the building of the deck is the easy part, which is awesome. But yeah, to your point of like niching down, I kind of swung the pendulum really far the other way. So not only do we just do decks, like there's a million deck brands, there's a million deck boards, there's a million colors. We literally just work with one brand. We only offer 3 qualities, even though they have like 5 tiers. We only offer 3, just a good, better, best. And we only show them 3 colors, even though they might have 5 colors. So we try to keep it as simple as possible. If obviously the customer finds something else they like, we can source it. But we try to keep it as simple as possible because there's, the ice cream parlor study.
Yep.
Are you familiar with that one? Or
I
I can go over
Okay,
it.
good.
Yeah, you probably are familiar with it. But I heard this, and this is what inspired me. It's basically like they did like an actual study on um, people making choices at an ice cream parlor. So when they went into an ice cream parlor and there was like 12 different flavors, on average, people took longer to decide and they were less satisfied with their ultimate choice because there was like, oh, that other one might have been better. But when there was just chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, people chose quicker and they were more satisfied. So if my goal as a builder is to make my client as satisfied as possible, that seems like pretty good evidence to or reasoning to offer less choices, as counterintuitive as it seems, because I know most deck builders are like, sometimes even build out like a crazy custom trailer with every single sample under the sun, and it's just
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, no, that's great. I've definitely, I know too. I mean, same thing goes with pricing. If you give people
Hmm.
3 choices, let's say, the cheapest, middle of the road, and the most expensive, the majority of the time they're going to choose that middle of the road price.
Hmm.
So it's good to, kind of give fewer choices and options. Just like you said, it helps them feel more confident, more easily make a decision versus, you can get, if you give them every option under the sun, like, it could just like be, debilitating, and they just can't make any
Yeah,
choice and you can't move
yeah,
forward.
1000%, and that's exactly how our job trip proposals are laid out, where it's just demolition is one thing, framing is one thing, decking, here's your good, better, best, you pick. And then
Yeah,
the railings, we typically only work with one style, so they only have one option, sometimes 2 options for the railing, and that's it.
sure. Do you have a go-to manufacturer that you like?
For the railings or the decking?
Both.
Yeah, for the decking, we use the TimberTech. I mean, comparable between that and Trek. Some people have their opinions, but whatever. The reason I like TimberTech is as we go up those quality levels, the colors were the same.
Hmm.
So you can pretty clearly show a client like, hey, this is good, better, best but they're going for the same thing with this color, but you can see how it gets better as you go up. Whereas with the Treks, as you go up lines, it's totally new colors every time, and it was harder to lay out clearly. And then the railing we use mainly use this brand called Westbury. They're really popular in the Midwest. I don't know about the rest of the country, but it's just basically um, an aluminum powder coated railing.
Sure.
But
So you said, yeah. So, well, I'm curious. So you said you're 26 now. When did
yeah.
you start the business? How old were you then?
Oh, I don't know exactly. I think we've wrapped up 2022. I started, so
Okay.
maybe 23, something like that.
So very young, to start your own business. That's
Yeah.
awesome. To see you do that. I mean, what would you say? Like, what were the hardest things that you didn't quite anticipate going into it?
That is a super good question. Some of the hardest things that I didn't anticipate. It's probably once you get like, here's what it was. It was getting off the tools. That was the hardest thing. I said that was my goal for over a year before it actually happened. And I've still been guilty of it the last year or two, where I had to go out there once or twice, you know. That was probably the hardest jump, because there's a lot of trust you got to lend out to people that you aren't used to doing that, and you take so much pride in the thing you create, so to pass that off to somebody was really tough. But after the first probably 3 or 4 months not being on the tools, I kind of calmed down finally. It just took a little bit.
Yeah. So how
sure.
long were you actually doing the builds?
Probably the first 2 years, I'd say, and then the last 1 year, haven't been
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think as entrepreneurs, right, it's just a natural tendency that we want to wear every hat, we want to do everything because we know that we're going to do it the best. We have this assumption that nobody can come anywhere close, and that the business will fail if we give up this control. So how do you, what helped you actually finally get off the tools? I mean, it sounds like you knew at a certain point going in, probably maybe like a year in, but like you knew you needed to make a change. Like what helped you sort of realize that? And then what was the catalyst that actually, a year later, you were able to do it?
Yeah, I mean, to the first question, what made me realize it? I don't know if there's anything that made me realize it. I was just knew, like, I wanted to grow a bigger company, and to do that, I don't think you can stay on the tools forever. But how I did it, it was more of like a weaning off process, I guess. One, it helped that the guys that were like working directly with me the previous almost a year, they just took over what I was doing basically. So I knew they had a lot of experience. And then it really helped too, the first few jobs, to just do my paperwork like in the truck at the job site. So if I was like freaking out or they had a question, I was just still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But after about 2 jobs, we were able to get past that.
Gotcha. So, you talk about these guys, like early on, did you hire full-time employees? Did you subcontract them? Like, how did you find these people to help you do the work?
Yeah. So I had like a young guy construction company. So it was literally just hired my younger brother's friends
Okay.
because they needed a job in the summer. And then they ended up, I don't know how they ended up staying with me for a full year. I think, yeah, like one of them was trying to get into an HVAC program, and they just got too full and didn't accept him for the year. So we just kept building decks. So that's how,
Nice.
yeah.
So were they, like, did you bring them on as employees?
Yeah, full-time employees. Yep.
Full-time employees? Okay.
Yep, exactly. Paying work comp, everything.
What's your model look like today? Like, you still have all full-time employees? How many people do you have?
Yeah, now it's kind of hybrid. So we still have the in-house crew. So they're able to do like one-off jobs, random stuff, run things around. But to deal with like the influx in the summertime, we work with a couple of subcontractors to help with that.
Yeah. How have you, like, what would you say has been the difference of working with, your in-house guys versus your subcontractors? Because I hear a lot of people, they kind of, there's this big debate, like,
Yeah.
I only want my own guys, or I only want to use subs, and there's the pros and cons of both. So I'm kind of curious what your experience has been.
Yeah, I love, the thing I love about the subs is at the start, our costs is set. So I know my material cost is set. Now I know my labor cost is set. Before the job starts, I know how profitable we're going to be. There's not really any surprises.
Yeah.
So I love that. The downside is, like I was saying, one-off stuff. Like if they want to, like a half a day job to go install some railings, it's not super easy to sub that out. Running materials, going to a dump site, little stuff like that just doesn't work with a sub. So that's why I still like having at least one crew in site or
Sure.
on our team. Yeah.
So when you first kind of got off the tools, what did you focus on initially with, kind of essentially everything on the business side? I mean, did you go full bore sales, kind of project management, the back office accounting? Like, how did all these functions sort of come to be that, I'm sure are probably more fleshed out today than they were early on?
Yeah. So a lot of basically all the marketing is not something that we take care of. So we work with a lot of agencies for that. So my roles were sales, project management, and then when I was on the tools, production. So the sales and the project management was just getting so much that I kind of had to drop production just to keep up with it.
Yeah.
So I was still full-time, just focusing on 2 things now. And now I'm kind of at the next level where I'm trying to find a project manager because I can't hardly keep up with the sales and all the leads that are coming in. So now I'm at that second level of like, it's scary to let go of the project management and dealing with the customer and making sure everything works out perfectly. So that's something I'm trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, that's great. So would you say, have you always just been comfortable doing sales, or, was that an uncomfortable thing that you had to?
Absolutely not. No, I'm horrible. I'm the type of guy when I was a kid, like my parents would give me money to go into a gas station to buy a snack, and I was too scared to talk to the clerk, so I wouldn't go in and buy anything. So no, not natural at it at all. But I spent a lot of time doing like different sales training. Um, Basically every year I do lots and lots and lots of sales training and lots of talking to people. So that has helped me a ton at by just putting money into sales training. Um, and then now that I'm like, 2, 3 years in, you meet, I don't know, 500 different customers or whatever. It starts to desensitize you.
Yeah.
So I'm not as nervous anymore. So you just get over it, basically. You just keep going and you get over it.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people probably don't know this about me, though. I mean, I was like definitely super introverted. Still not the guy that loves a bunch of little small talk and can't just be totally comfortable having these random conversations about what I think is like
Mhm.
nothing. It was interesting though, like early on in my first company, and same thing here. Like when we go out and we do conferencing and trade shows, like you're essentially just thrown to the wolves, and people just keep walking up, and you have no choice but to interact and to talk and to engage. And it's like just like you said, like after enough reps, it just becomes second nature. It's super easy. You had no
Yep.
qualms. I mean, even public speaking, right? Like I remember my first, couple times when I used to travel all around the country talking to colleges and universities, and like, you get the shakes and you're all worried about public speaking, but now it's like, it's just it's a second nature, but it definitely takes a lot, and it can really be internally, it can be quite the struggle to kind of get used to it. But yeah, with enough reps, enough practice, enough experience, I think anyone can develop those skills.
Yeah, it's a big obstacle to get over. And I can't even imagine trying to go on stage like you do. So props.
Yeah, I mean, so you talked about though you've invested in yourself and in training and
Yeah.
specific. It sounds like sales training. I mean, and it sounds like you've made a considerable investment in that. I know a lot of people, they one, they probably just don't even know that that's an option. I've never thought about it or considered it. So obviously, kind of hearing how you've done that and how it's impacted you, is great. But
Mhm.
like two, I also hear a bunch of people say, oh, I'm too small. I'm too early on. I can't afford it. Like did you were you at a position where like you're like, man, like this is going to be expensive. I don't know if I can afford it. How did you make the decision to invest in that
Mhm.
training and that coaching, and like because it's just a huge struggle for so many people, and it's like that chicken and the egg problem, right? Like
Yeah.
I know I need to get great at sales, but I don't have any sales, so I can't invest in getting better. How did you kind of overcome that?
The first one's the toughest by far. Um, at the start, it probably spent 6 months just diving into like free trainings online and stuff like that, to get your feet wet a little bit. But the main theme was like, if I had any extra money, so if I back up, I kind of shamelessly, I want to make more money. Like that's my goal. So if I have a little bit of extra money, where can I put it to get the best return? Um, And if I back up even more, I thought that used to be like real estate stuff for me. So when I dropped out of school, I started like wholesaling and stuff on the side. I didn't have the sales skills at the time to make that work, but I still did. And I recommend this to any young people out there listening. I did do a house hack, which is a huge reason that helped me start this business in the first place. So I bought like my first house with, FHA loan, 3.5% down, did the whole thing where you rent out the rooms. And now I wiped out my biggest expense and actually make like $200 a month to live there. So I highly
Hmm.
recommend that if you're young. Um, but anyway, so the original question, how did I get over the first hump of buying some sort of training? I basically, I had like, it was like $6,500 or whatever for a year, which is pretty low, to what I'm spending now. But I kind of just wrote it off. Like if this turns into nothing, fine, but I can't just keep trying to learn off a YouTube university. Like I want more. Um, so I wrote it off as just being gone. Um, but after I spent that first $6,500, and I'll never forget this, it was almost exactly a month later that I got a job that I absolutely would not have gotten unless I had joined that program. And that profit from that job was like $7,000 1 month later.
Wow.
And I don't know if everybody will experience something like that, but that was super reinforcing.
Well, I mean,
Because
what do you think it was though? I mean, like, was it like you had learned
yeah.
a tactic or a word track or how to handle objections or like what?
So this was when I was super new still, like first year. So it was just like going from no sales process at all and just like barely replying over text or email to customers to like, now let's call them. Let's call them right away. Let's hear about their pain a little bit. Let's talk about what they're looking for and then actually go out there. So at the start, it was super basic stuff that helped a lot. And now I just pay more for more advanced things, basically.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and I think again, it's something that people don't often realize that, and I would say not just for, for early young people. I mean, sometimes there's people who've been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years and they feel like, oh, I've been doing this, I know how to do it. And they're just, the reality is they're kind of stuck in their ways and there may be other ways or better ways or new ways,
Yep.
of accomplishing, whatever it may be from, sales to team building and recruiting to, managing people. I mean, there's so many different avenues that I think people can really benefit from, getting coaching and
Mm-hmm.
investing in themselves and their own development. It's such an important thing. And, just like with you, Joe, I mean, I see firsthand like the impact when people join these groups and they invest in themselves and they invest in their team. It's like, you can almost, I mean, it's, I wouldn't say it's like, month one, sometimes month two, but like, in the first quarter, like you just start to see the trajectory of their business. Like it starts like
Yep.
going up versus like they could have been doing the same thing for the last, couple of years. And it's just sort of, they get to this point where they sort of flatline and, you got to do something different. You got to keep investing in yourself. I think that's one of the most important things for, for a good leader and entrepreneurs. And, is just continually, relook at what can you do to improve. It doesn't mean like you have to change everything, but it's a small, incremental improvements over time. I think like, you can't just accept status quo just because it's the comfortable thing, right?
Yep.
Like, it's like, what else can we do? How can we improve? How do you go from good to great? And, it sounds like you've really unlocked that. And, to the point where you're continuing to invest in yourself. You're continuing to spend more and more, on this learning and development. So, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think if we take that feeling of like, oh, what if this is a scam or, oh, I know everything. I think everybody probably feels that, especially other contractors. So if you in your area are the one that can get over that feeling, well, nobody else is getting over the feeling. So there's one very clear competitive advantage is just being able to get over that fear.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So when did you figure out like that you needed systems and processes? I mean, obviously you're using JobTread. I don't know what you were using before, but like at what point did you kind of figure out like, or tell us, I mean, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Were you pen and paper, like
So
spreadsheets?
before I started right away with a job management software, but it was a different one. And it was more based around like service-based businesses, like cleaning companies, pressure washing companies. So it didn't work as good for building out more complex proposals and templates. Um, Regrettably, though, there was a good year where I first heard of JobTread until I actually joined JobTread. So I was kicking myself for that. Once I finally did join, I was kicking myself for that year that I did not join. Um, Sorry, what was the original question though?
Yeah, I
Start
mean, I'm
over.
just curious, kind of like, so it sounds like, you did sort of figure out no early on, you needed something in place,
Yeah.
which, again, a lot of people don't realize that. So maybe like, what was the, what would you say the impact of having a system has made on your business?
It's way easier to pass things off as I'm trying to jump up levels, and having everything in like one place within JobTread has just been monumentally helpful because I don't have to like we upload all our files to the job. I don't have to look for permits or plans. I don't have to resend. Like I don't have to text my guys anymore the address the night before at 6 p.m. I don't have to send them the address for tomorrow. They just know to go into JobTread and then clock in when we get there. So that's super helpful. And then the biggest thing too that I love about JobTread is I was doing job costing just by hand before with the other software, which meant I wasn't doing it very much and very consistently. So now just being able to upload cost receipts, track hours within there means that every single job gets job costed and it's way quicker. So that extra data has been super helpful.
Nice. Do you, do you incorporate it into the sales process? Like,
Mhm.
is it a differentiator for you?
Yeah, the proposals in particular, like how we can add the extra pictures, the options, and everything. I just had a Zoom presentation with a customer yesterday where she got a little frustrated because so how our sales process works is like lead reaches out, we do a phone call, we meet on site, and then we do a Zoom presentation. And she was expecting me to just send the bid to her before our Zoom call. And she got kind of frustrated when we jumped on the call, like, "Yeah, I wish you would've just sent me it, and if I have questions, we'll talk about it on the Zoom call." But by the time we were done, she's like, "Oh, okay, I get it. I'm so sorry. I was kinda snippy at the start. Um, yeah, I see why we need to do the Zoom call. This is, like, way more in depth and way better than any of the other ones I've seen, so thank you, actually." So it ended up working out. But yeah, that's the biggest thing our customers like the most, is the differentiation in the proposal itself. Um, Kinda side note here, but I don't know if this is unethical or not, but I've had my brother invite all my competition to his house to give him a bid on his tech. So I know what all the other ones look like in our area, and they just look like spreadsheets, like Excel spreadsheets or Word docs with no pictures. They're super confusing. So it's pretty easy to beat that.
Nice. Yeah, look, man, it's, you gotta know your competition.
Yeah, we
So
definitely know them now.
however you figure that out, but, I do think it's important, like you said, that you have a process. You know what works for you, for your business. You know what leads, the prospect down the path to get them to that optimal, satisfied, we're ready to move forward with you. So, sometimes when your prospects wanna sort of deviate from that and it's not best, it's good that you reinforce and hold the line and say, look, this is our process, this is how we need to move forward. And at the end of the day, they have that realization on why, but they don't always know that going in, and that's where I think that education is really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So you said though you do an initial Zoom call, which is great. I mean, I think to the extent that being able to look someone in the eyes and see them and read their body language, that's a whole lot easier than just doing it over the phone. And
Mhm.
and that's even better than just an email or text message. Like, kind of
Yeah.
building those relationships is so important. Do you, like, at what point do you go out on site? Like, is that something that you don't do until after they've signed, or are you closing just via Zoom, or do you go out and
Yeah.
do an on-site consultation as well?
Yeah, I'll explain a little further. The first one's actually a phone call. So, like, the lead comes in, and then they have to send photos. This is all automated, by the way, but they send photos. If they don't send photos, they're put into a reminder sequence to get those photos. Once we have photos, then they have access to schedule a phone call with me. Um, so, high level, this is a pretty high friction process, but being the only sales guy, I kind of like the extra friction. Weeds out the super tire kickers. So once we have that phone call, it's just to learn a little bit more about what they're looking for, see if we can help. When are they looking to do it? And it probably weeds out like 20-25% of the people that make it to that stage. So that way I'm not driving to everybody. After the phone call, we schedule an on-site. On-site's your pretty typical on-site meeting where we look at samples, get measurements, and then on-site sometimes I'll do a 3D rendering so they can see it. And then from there, usually within a week, we schedule a Zoom call so that I have a little bit of time to put together the proposal, all the options, and then we just go over it on that Zoom call. And then some people we close on the Zoom call. Some people I just send them the proposal and we book a meeting from that meeting to just follow up.
Gotcha. Yeah. So sounds like it's working good. I mean,
Yeah.
do you feel like do you feel like you're often competing against other deck builders, or are you able to, kind of, once you get in there and you get going down the path, like, you can kind of, you know, close it down hopefully quickly enough that they're not going out shopping?
Yeah, they still are. Most of our customers are getting, the typical 3 bids, especially in the last year or 2. I think that was probably different in COVID times. If you got out there, you got the job type
Yeah.
of thing, but now they are more consistently getting 3, but, um, nobody's doing anything with this high level of touch. So it's super, like, it stands out so much more, it's crazy. Um, 2 examples is, one, we just got a HOA project, so there's, like, 44 decks there, and we were absolutely not the cheapest, which I would have thought they were only looking for the cheapest because 'cause they're a big HOA just trying to save money, but that was not the case. They went with us because they liked the process and they liked, how I explained how we're gonna keep the whole community updated as the project progresses. And I had the opportunity to explain how we can do that by having a Zoom call. Um, so they absolutely love that. And then there
So
was
wait,
another one.
you won 44 decks in one deal?
Yeah, it was awesome. It's a good start to
Man,
the year.
congrats. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a great start. Um, and there was another giant project that we won. Um, and the other person we were bidding against, they even had like a decent process. It was similar. Um, but we were just able to, our call was after their call. So we were able to address some things that they talked about on that one. And they still went with us, even though we were like $7,000 more on a $60,000 project.
Gotcha. So you're not coming in trying to be the cheapest, lowballing. I mean, you know
Right.
your numbers, you know your value, and you stick to it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, just curious, what are you using for to like take the measurements and even doing like if you do a 3D render, what tools are you using there?
Yeah, taking measurements is still just by hand, just tape measure. I have like a little remarkable tablet, it's called, to just write everything down. And then the 3D rendering, we just use the TimberTech software.
Cool.
It's not super in-depth, so you can't do anything like super crazy custom, but for 90% of what we're doing, it works perfect.
Yeah.
And I can do it in 15 minutes in their driveway.
That's awesome. I mean, it's and I just had a pool built, and like I think one of the things that really helped me feel comfortable moving forward was when they shared the designs and being able to visualize exactly what this is going to look like in my backyard. So if you can churn that out in 15 minutes, that's awesome. And it just, again, it helps check off some more of those boxes. It helps kind of address, that uncertainty, because some people, they're not as good at visualizing. They've
Yeah.
never built a deck. They don't know what to
Yeah.
expect. And like the more that you can educate them in the process and help them, start to see what it's going to be like to work with you. Like, again, it just helps lock down those deals. And, the sooner you can take them off the market, the deal's yours. So whatever you can do to get them comfortable, it sounds like you've really dialed that in and have got a very good process.
Yeah, the homeowners absolutely love it when I do that on site. One, because nobody else does it. If they do, that's usually they charge for it. And then
Yeah.
three, I'm able to do it right there on site. And yeah, to your point, like I've never met a homeowner that can somehow visualize a deck they've never built.
Yeah.
So it's just tough to visualize for almost everybody.
And you're building out, you're doing the design right there. Like, so you're just taking your laptop out there and doing it?
Yeah, just in my truck.
Okay. And I
Yep.
mean, are you churning out the proposal at the same time?
Sometimes. So if we
Yeah.
want to get into the minutia, part of the discovery call is to learn if they are getting these other bids, and if so, when. Because one of our biggest objections last year was, this is great, we love you, the price is what we expected, but we're still waiting on 2 other bids. So I was there first. So that was like one of our most common things. So to prevent that objection completely, we just try to be the second or last one to present.
Yeah.
So during the discovery call, I try to figure out if they're getting other ones, if so, when. So if I know they aren't getting any other ones, or they already had 1 or 2 people out, then I'll try to present right on site. But if I know I'm the first one out, I don't want to present right away on site. I'll try to schedule a Zoom call for, a day or 2 after they have their first proposal.
Nice. That's awesome. I hadn't heard anyone implementing that strategy, but that's
Yeah.
a great use of that discovery call.
Yeah, there you go.
And how far out are you able, or how far are you booking? I mean, are you able to get the job done, right away? Or are you a couple months out? Like what's that backlog look like?
That's the nice thing about working with subcontractors, which we only started last season. We're able to scale that up and down pretty easily. So we never really get booked out more than like 2 months or so. Like typically we have like our in-crew house working on something, and then on and off one sub. But then like in the busy season last year, we were able to have like 5 or 6 projects going at once, just because we can scale up with the subs.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we try to keep it to 2 months or less.
And I'm curious too, you said that marketing is one area that you realize you just didn't have the bandwidth, didn't have the expertise.
Yeah.
So, you found a marketing agency to partner with.
Yeah.
What's that been like, and how early did you do that? Because I think that's another thing that I hear from people. It's like, man, like I know I need a website. I know I need a better website.
Yeah.
I know I need help with marketing, but it's really expensive and I don't have the cash to do that. And it's another of those chicken and the egg type things. Like, how early on did you invest in that marketing agency, and what did they do for you?
Yeah, I mean, if we go way back early on, I actually built like our first website myself, and I actually built our second website myself, and did a lot of the SEO work on the back end. which got us fairly far. But then I was just so swamped with, all the leads, the sales, the project management, the building it. That was the easiest thing to pawn off. You don't have to you don't have to hire an employee to do the building. That's harder to pawn off. You don't have to hire somebody to do project management. That's harder to pawn off. But it's really easy to pass off the marketing for a small fee to an agency. So it basically, for me, just got to a tipping point of like, what's got to give.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, that's it's something that, again, I think the sooner people can make sure that they have a very, professional website that, I mean, it is the face of your company. It is the
Yep.
first experience that so many people will have with your business. And like, you have to make sure that it is just top notch. I mean, if you got a shoddy website or no website at all,
Mm-hmm.
again, like your chances of getting more inbound leads and getting more of those to convert, is so much smaller than, if you've got that, great customer facing website that, focusing on that experience that they have, from the very moment they find out about you, is it's everything, and,
Exactly.
and you got to make sure that your website is converting. And if it's not, figure out why,
Mm-hmm.
understand and track like where your lead's coming from. Did this agency, like, beyond just the website and I assume some SEO stuff, like what have you done any ads, or are you doing other marketing strategies?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, we started doing just Google pay-per-click ads with an agency. This is a mistake I made that hopefully somebody else looking at this can learn from. Is I just went with the first agency that somebody referred to me, and I met with 0 other ones. So we spent like 24 grand that season to get one $16,000 job that grossed us like 7 grand.
Wow.
So terrible deal. So we did no paid ads last year. This year we're restarting, but I met with a good 10 or 12 different ones. And when you meet, even though you don't speak their language, after 8 or 9 or 10, you start to pretty clearly see who has their stuff together. So that's why I recommend doing a bunch. But now, like this season, we'll have an agency doing our Google ads, another one doing our SEO and the website stuff, and then I'm working with a guy locally on our Facebook ads.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that's it's so important that you find the right partner. You can't just assume because someone's great at, one thing, that they're going to be great at another thing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, you do marketing agencies sort of bundle the whole website, the SEO, the ads.
Yeah.
We've had the same experience. I mean, in my first company, I'll never forget. Like, I went and I tried to do the Google ads myself, and I turned it on, and thought I set a reasonable budget, and then I forgot about it. And it was like, a month later, I logged back in, I'm like over 5,000 in the hole with not a single lead to show. And it's like, wait, what the hell happened? So you definitely need to make sure that, if you're going to do it yourself, you really need to have the expertise to do it yourself. You got to
Yep.
monitor it. You got to set daily,
Yep.
budgets, monthly budgets, like know, what you're doing. Otherwise you need to find somebody who is very experienced at that,
Mm-hmm.
and here at JobTread, I mean, like we've had similar experience. We've had, even our own team members who, tried to do it, weren't successful. We finally have the right person doing our Google ads, incredible. We're signing up, 30, 40 people from ads these days, which is like crazy,
Yeah.
but it's something that, like, even like Google ads to Facebook ads, the same person, the same company very well might not be good at one or the other. Like, just because they know one, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can successfully run both. They're very, very different,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that you approach them is different. So, taking the time to interview multiple people, asking to see their results, ask, what can you expect your customer acquisition cost to be? What will the process of monitoring these results? Are they going to report to you, monthly, biweekly? Like, how frequently will you get updates? Like, how do you know, like, how do they define success? Like, I think all of these things, like when you take the time to interview and ask these detailed questions, they're going to help you, figure out who is the right partner for you. And I definitely recommend, outsourcing this. Find a good partner who can do these, do the ads for you, because when you can get your ads dialed in, I mean, man, like it is awesome. But so many people, they can't get it done, or they have the wrong partner. Like, that does not mean that ads aren't effective. It
Mm-hmm.
just means that you aren't effectively managing and running them. So I mean, even even like you said, you took a year off and you came back around to it, and now you're starting to see it, picking up again. I mean, like, it is a great tool, but it definitely takes being strategic and smart about it.
Yeah, exactly. And just kind of like how deck building is our niche. There's people where the Google Ads is their niche, and I feel like we're one of the best deck builders. There's other people who are one of the best Google guys, and you got to find those people.
Yeah.
Don't try to just do it yourself. The only one I feel like you could maybe do yourself is the Google local service ads. This is something I was able to do myself. It works off. You need to have a Google business profile, and you need to have some decent, pretty good reviews, because the ranking is basically based on that. But it's really easy to set up. You just set whatever Google recommends for your weekly or monthly budget, like triple it, because you're never going to reach it, is what I found. This is just what's working for us. Triple that, and then make sure you always answer your phone call. These are really easy to turn on. You only pay for it if somebody fills out a form or they call you. From Google's perspective, if you like increase your budget a whole bunch, from Google's perspective, they have this lead and they have a bunch of people who want to pay for it. So who's the most willing to pay for it? So I'm trying to raise my hand like, hey, we'll pay a lot for this. And then the other key is obviously always answer your phone, because the AI will track who's answering the phone calls to actually service the customer. And then if you have a real customer on the line, try to have a couple-minute conversation, because they also track how long you're on the phone.
Yeah.
But those are a really easy one to turn on. If anybody out there has a decent Google business page, just YouTube, Google local service ads, get those running.
Great advice. I mean, seriously, like that is next level right there. And I see so many people that, one, haven't set up their Google My Business profile, or two, like they're not continually like feeding it. Like upload photos of your work, like just continually feed that thing. Google will heavily reward you when you continue to upload photos, you continue to get reviews. Like, it's so important, that you show them that you're active, and same thing on your website, continually add, new pages, new blog posts, like whatever it may be. Like, they're going to heavily value the people who are doing that, as well as if you're running ads, they give you even more love. So the more you can kind of do all of these things together, it's just so helpful and impactful.
Yeah, and your point of always updating the Google page, the Google business page. Somebody else told me this, but it's so simple. Treat your Google business page like it's a social media page. Like, you're going to post updates there, try to collect reviews, keep it active, keep stuff constantly going there. And if anything, I would put more effort on keeping that active, because if you think about it, are you getting more leads from your Facebook or Instagram, or more leads from Google? Probably Google. So let's put a lot more time into updating that and keeping that active.
Yeah, 100%. So you've talked about leads a couple times, or about reviews a couple times. Like, can you tell us a little bit more? Like, what's your, what do you do to get reviews? I mean, is that something that you've always done, or do you have some sort of program in place?
We have a pretty in-depth process, but everybody I've told it to has liked it a lot. And for us, it works incredibly well. Like, when we run this playbook perfectly, I've never had somebody not leave a glowing review. So it starts with this study that was done with waiters and their tips. I don't know if anybody out there's heard this one, but it was like, if a waiter left 1 minute at the table, they got like a 3% boost in their tips. If they left 2 minutes at the table, they got like a 7% boost or whatever. But if they left one, walked away from the table, came back and gave them a second one, because there's 2 people there, they got like a 23% boost in their tips, so way higher. So what was the takeaway from that study? The takeaway was that giving a gift helps a lot, and making it unexpected and personalized helps even more. So that's why they got that like 23% boost or whatever. It was unexpected because the waiter walked away and came back, and it was personalized because it's like, oh, there's 2 people, let me give you 2 minutes. So from there, I try to think about how can we apply that to what we do. So we do a gift at the end of the project, like everybody does, but we literally choreograph it to make it seem unexpected and personalized. So for the personalized piece, we just do like a nice bottle of wine or champagne. It's kind of celebratory on your deck. You can take it a step further if you do bigger projects and do like a Cutco gift set, and just make sure you have their last name engraved on it. Please don't put your company logo on it. People will throw it away. But if you put their last name on it, they'll keep it forever and think about you whenever they use it. So anyways, to make it personalized, we use like a bottle of wine or champagne. And then to make it unexpected, when we're wrapping up a project, we walk them through. Anything else you guys need? Great. This was awesome. Any questions, let us know. I jump in the truck as if I'm going to leave. We've wrapped it up. Sit there for like 10 seconds, grab the wine, walk back up to the house, knock on the door, and they look so confused. I'm like, hey, Mr. Smith, I'm so embarrassed. I almost forgot, but we got you guys like this little thank you gift. Anyways, have a good day. I'm out of here. And they're over the moon at that point because they just had this beautiful wrap up, and now you surprised them with this gift that was totally unnecessary. I've had multiple people before I get home leave a review with pictures without being asked because they are just over the moon.
So wait, you first give them like Cutco knives with their
Sorry,
last
that's a
name?
different option. That's a different option
Okay.
for a gift. Our gift is a bottle of wine or champagne. If you
Okay.
do like 100,000 plus projects, I'd probably invest a little bit more into the gift. So
Gotcha.
that's just another really good option.
Gotcha.
And then
So
we
it's
choreograph it so it's seems like we forgot about it. So now they're over the moon. And then the real magic, if they don't leave a review right away, is when I send the email later requesting the review. So they've just spent a week or two with our guys on site. They love them. They're hard workers. They talk to them. They're really appreciative of all their hard work. So what I do when I ask for the review is I said, hey, Mr. Smith, thanks again for working with us. Any chance you'd be opposed to leaving us a short review on Google? Brandon and Quinn, those are the two guys they love that's been in their backyard for a week. Brandon and Quinn each get a $50 review if you leave them a 5-star review. So we just built up like this amazing experience. They feel like they owe Brandon and Quinn. And now I'm just giving them an opportunity to pay Brandon and Quinn back for all their hard work by leaving me a review. When you specifically word it like that at the end, I mean, it kind in a nice way, it kind of guilt trips them into doing it, but everybody does it. It's incredibly powerful.
That's awesome. I mean, I've been a big advocate for, telling people like, look, when someone's spending, a huge chunk of their
Yeah.
hard-earned money with you, like that little gift, I mean, it's such a nominal expense. I mean, a
100%.
bottle of wine it is a total rounding error in the greater perspective of how much profit you just earned on that job. But like, man, it is the customer experience that's
Mhm.
invaluable, and like you said, I mean, it leads to the reviews. It leads to them referring you to other people. It
Yep.
leads to them thinking about you the next time they need another project. And,
Yep.
and it's just like, I don't understand how everyone doesn't do this.
I don't
It,
get it
it is
either.
such an easy thing to do.
It's so easy. And there's a book, some people have probably heard of it, called Giftology. The biggest thing with the gifts, and this is the biggest mistake I see of the people that do give gifts, is they always put their company logo on it. People don't want company logo stuff. They're just, have you ever like really kept a mug that has somebody else's logo on it in your house? Like, no, nobody really cares about that. But what they will care about, that's why I like the Cutco example. I read this or heard it on a podcast a couple years ago or something. If you get them a little gift set of really nice knives with their last name on it, they will never throw that away. Not only will they never throw it away, they'll use it multiple times a week. And every time they pull it out, they'll think about you. They don't need their logo. They don't need your logo for them to think about you. So you want to give them something that they're going to keep forever and think about you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it definitely, I would say that takes a little bit more effort,
A little bit.
to go kind of personalize that and order it. But, again, companies like Cutco make it super easy to be able to do that.
Incredibly easy. And those gift sets are like around $200. So that's why our cutoff is like a $50,000 project. If it's less than that, we don't do the customized thing. If it's more than that, we'll invest a little bit more time into getting something a little nicer.
And I absolutely love that. We do the same thing with our, with our team. So anytime someone, gives us a 5-star review, the customer success manager, they get a little bonus. Just, again, we want them going in saying, I want to bend over backwards, do everything I can to make sure this customer has a great experience from the very moment they sign up with JobTread. And, it is really just helps set the tone. Not a huge thing, but it definitely, I believe, makes an impact on the way that we approach every single customer from day one. And, again, it's, most people probably don't know, maybe we need to, promote it a little bit better, that we actually do something for our customer success managers for every
Yeah.
5-star review that they get.
Yeah.
But like it's a great program, and I'm sure your guys, love it too, just knowing that they've got that additional, bonus coming if they can earn that 5-star review for you.
Exactly. That's the ancillary benefit. I give them permission. Like, if the customer wants to talk with you, like, take the 10 minutes, yap
Yeah.
with them for a little bit. If it goes over 15, 20, just tell them you got to get back to work, but like, take the extra time,
Yeah.
you know?
Now, if, again, I know a lot of times, you ask for the review, someone says they'll do it, but they don't do it.
Mhm.
they forgot, whatever the excuse is. Like, so, do you follow up? How many times do you follow up, or do you just
Yeah. So
let it
once we
go?
started implementing that process perfectly, like it's 90% or above that leave a review. So for the
Wow.
few people that don't, I'll follow up once or twice. Just like, hey, checking in to see if you were able to leave that review. Sometimes they don't show up on our end. So if you let me know that you have left one, then I can let Google know that it hasn't shown up. So that's just a bullshit excuse so that I have a reason to reach out. Um, or I'll just remind them like, hey, were you able to leave that so I can get Brandon and Quinn their bonus?
Yeah,
If not, no
that's awesome.
worries.
Yeah, man, that's great. Man, Joe, this has been super insightful. Kind of as we
Mhm.
wrap up here. I mean, I'm curious. Do you have any sort of final thoughts or advice? Like, when you think back about, again, the very beginnings of when you started Deck Science to,
Mhm.
what you've learned. I mean, is there anything that, like, you feel like now that you wish you would have known, starting off, that could have maybe saved you, a couple challenges or headaches, or could have helped you to grow, quicker or more profitable? That just any general advice that you might want to share with others who are looking to build, a successful business, and hopefully follow in your footsteps here.
Yeah. Um, this might not be like super applicable to everybody, but when I first started, I swung so far into the pendulum side that I wanted everything to be like so templatized and like not custom that I wouldn't even have to talk with the customers. I would just send them the few options based on the size. You make your decision. But now I've gone the other way of like having more touch points with them, conversating with them more, going out to their place, doing the Zoom calls. That has worked way better, having more touch points, even though the actual product is still somewhat templatized. The sales process is not templatized. It's more personalized. Um, and then just like some final nuggets that is working for us right now that some other people might get some benefit from. On our JobTread proposals, people love this. I don't know why, but at the top, we literally have a group called Your Team. And then the sub items under that is your project manager. And then it's a picture of me because I'm the project manager and everything I'm responsible for. And then under that is your foreman, picture of your foreman and everything they're responsible for. Again, I don't know why, but people absolutely love that because they know who's going to be in their backyard for the next week or two and how often to expect the communications. You can explain it there and who they need to reach out to at what stage of a project. So people have loved that.
And that's awesome. I've
Yep.
I heard from a couple other builders who have done that as well, and they think it is just such a difference maker for
Yeah.
setting that tone, and for setting the expectations, for the project moving forward.
Hmm.
Like, again, like, the goal is to build a relationship here, and it's for your customers to feel like they know you. I mean, one,
Exactly.
people buy from people they know, they like, they trust. But even going through the project, again, this is construction. Not everything is going to go perfectly well, and so when those challenges do come about, you want them to feel like they can reach out to you, and that they can, bring any concerns to you. Because the worst thing that can happen is if someone's frustrated and says nothing, and you have no idea, and you just keep going along.
Hmm.
You could have course corrected, you could have, done something different or made it right. But, like, you got to build that relationship so that they
Hmm.
feel comfortable, and you also got to make sure that you're reaching out and asking and checking in. But, like, I love the idea of having, that photo, and being able to really put the names at the face so that they know what to expect. That's an awesome touch, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's helped a whole bunch. Same with the actual communication structure. Once the project is signed, it's like, maybe a month and a half till it starts. So last season, I started doing this where I just took control of that communication process instead of waiting them to ask me a question or waiting a couple weeks between messaging them. I just literally every single week at the same time, Thursday morning, I just send an update individually to every customer we have in the pipeline. Here's what happened this week. Here's what we're expecting to happen next week. I will message you again at this time on next Thursday. And questions disappeared.
No,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
it's so helpful.
That's great, man. One last question. I'm just curious. So, like,
Yeah.
what's your longer term, vision here? Where do you want to take, Deck Science over the next, 5-10 years?
Yeah, I would like to sell it probably around like 35 plus or minus 3 years, so 10-ish years from now. Um, where I really wanna be is, like, probably 5 to 7 locations, hopefully each doing around probably about 5 top line, 1 bottom line. So then that way, if we have 5 locations doing 1 million bottom line each, that's 5 million bottom line. You could sell that, I don't know what, 5x, 8x. So exit 25
Nice.
to 45, something like
I
that.
love the fact that you already have a vision and a goal that you've set for yourself.
That's where we're
That
going.
it's so many people they don't set goals. I mean, you got to have annual goals, you got to have monthly goals, you got to have long-term goals. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have your goals defined, you will never hit them. You'll
Yeah.
never know. I mean, it's so awesome that again you can tell that you're very forward thinking. You've ironed out the details of your day-to-day processes, the operating processes, but your long-term goals and visions here. And I think that has been something that has really helped you to be able to be so successful and to be so young, man. I mean, at 26, like holy cow, that's incredible to see what you've been able to build at such a young age. I mean, starting at 23 years old, like, I mean, again, very few people can say that they even had the forethought of creating their own business and building something that is scalable and profitable with that end goal in mind. So dude, I
Yeah.
can't wait to continue watching you build this company. Your success is it's motivating. We love seeing the success that you're having. But look, I also appreciate you coming on here and sharing with the rest of our community. This is the type of success story that people need to hear so that they can hopefully take away some nuggets, can implement some changes, and can be as successful as you. So many people just they're going at it alone and they don't know what they don't know. And like, you don't have to do
Mhm.
that, guys. Like, again, take the time, invest in yourself, invest in your team, set up your processes, set up your systems, focus on the customer experience, and you can build a very successful business just like Joe is doing here today. Thank you again, Joe, for coming on, for sharing this experience, sharing your wisdom with everyone out there. We truly appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really awesome. And if anybody out there like has any questions about any of the word vomit I just did, just add me on Facebook. Happy to answer any questions. I don't post a lot on there, but I do check it a lot. So happy to
Awesome.
help.
Yeah, and Joe's in our JobTread Pros group, so
Yep.
certainly feel free to connect to them there, spark up some discussions about this podcast. Again, everyone, really appreciate you tuning in, listening here to today's episode, and yeah, can't wait to see what the future holds for you, Joe. Thanks again
Thanks,
for coming
Eric.
on.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.